Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Albany City Council meeting, Wednesday, February 28th, 2024, at 6 p.m. Now call the meeting to order, and would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much for joining us this evening and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allison, can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Newton.
Present.
Counselor Kopinski. Here. Counselor Montague.
Here.
Counselor Smith.
Here.
Counselor McGee.
Present.
Counselor Novak. Mayor Johnson II.
Here. Councilor Novak is on the way. Traffic problems on North Albany Road. Next on tonight's agenda is special presentations. A is Albany Police Department Public Service Award for Jason Dorsett. Chief Marshall Harden will be doing the ceremony.
Jason, come on up. You're too tall, they can't see me. Well, it's just the whole world, I guess. But a long time ago, I got some really solid advice that anything really important is rarely done through the actions of one person, and relationships really matter. And I took that when I came here to Albany almost 5 years ago. It'll be 5 years ago next February. And I stepped in at a wonderful time in the world. We had COVID hitting. In my profession, we had the murder of George Floyd. Everything turned our world upside down. And I really needed to engage with people in our community that would help make connections and really help us build bridges and open lines of communication, because we can't do it alone. And so I met Jason during a fairly dark incident here in Albany involving a young man that was a victim of a fairly horrible bias crime. And he stepped up, instantly made connections with me and with the PD. He since joined our Diversity Advisory and Alliance team, which we just renamed, and is really responsible for helping bring people together. And we've done some important work. We still have a lot more work to do. But one of the things that I recognize is that when it comes to public safety, it really does take a village. It really takes people investing and reaching across and trying to work together for solutions, not just complain about problems and what's wrong with the world. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Jason. Between his role at the NAACP, just his role in trying to build bridges with police and help us understand kind of where the community's coming from, and really stepping in some really dark times for people in our community. He's been there, and a lot of times he does it on his own time and his own dime. And so public safety, again, is a group effort, and we would not be able to do that without his help and his engagement and his trust in us and vice versa. So I'm happy to give him one of the first Albany Police Department Public Safety Awards. Emma, where are you? Come on, Emma.
Next is Albany Police Department, Emma Dean.
Again, talk about partnerships. Two really huge issues we're facing in the world right now. Racial inequality and people struggling with substance abuse and homelessness. I mean, that really sums up a lot of what is the struggles in the world right now. And I came from a city up north that really took the approach of compassionate law enforcement, or compassionate accountability. I think that matches well with Emma's mindset. And so we have some issues facing Albany. We have issues surrounding people who are homeless. issues with people dealing with substance abuse, issues with mental health, all of which intersect and we intersect as far as our roles. Being an advocate for recovery and our homeless population, as well as sometimes that intersects with us. So we find ways to help each other out, do what's best by the person involved. And I know that we can call each other. And one case in point is we had an individual in Albany really struggling around substance abuse, really struggling around mental health. And Emma's team and our team came together and developed a really good plan for this individual. Unfortunately, the system failed us and failed that individual, but that's the kind of partnership that we have. Whether it's a death of one of our homeless individuals that I've been able to reach out and work with family through Emma, or if we see a spike in a camp or a location, Emma's people are on it. We would not also be very successful with Marvin's Gardens without the help of the folks at Chance. They're down there, they work with people. A lot of times they're cleaning up the camp. We don't ask them to do that. They're really trying to engage. And again, it's a public safety partnership that we would not be successful if we didn't have this. So I'm really proud to give Emma this public safety award as well.
Congratulations, Jason. Congratulations, Emma. Next is Albany Police Department Retirement Officer Steve Mills, Chief Harden.
Come on up, Steve.
I'm Darwin Officer.
Mr. Steve.
Well,
Mr.
I hate to
Steve
break
Mills.
it to you, but no, I'm just kidding. I met Steve when I first came here, again, 5 years ago, and really found how instrumental he is as a volunteer for the Albany Police Department. These are very, very key positions with any police department. They go out and are that extension of us. They do special events with us. And so Steve's been a part of our volunteer program for 10 years. We tried to give him a raise, but he wouldn't take a raise. I keep trying to fire Connie, our other one, but they give her a raise. But no, it's they give back to the community. They don't have to. They do it because they care about public safety. And then Steve was a big part of the formation of the Albany Public Safety Foundation, which I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but for any of your students that have gone through Albany Public Schools and gotten free CPR training, that foundation has paid for that training through the fire department. We have AEDs in our cars because that foundation has paid for that. So Steve was very instrumental in getting that up and off the ground and will continue that work, so we appreciate that. So it's my honor to give him his retirement plaque for volunteering on behalf of the Albany Police Department for your service to the community.
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations, and we very much appreciate the work you have done on behalf of the city. Next on the agenda is public business from the public. Mr. Charles Williams. As soon as everybody moves out, we'll have Mr. Williams come up. Is that E? Mr. Williams, you have 3 minutes. As soon as you start speaking, the clock will start running.
I would like to request the council, we have an additional minute, if that is possible at all for them. I time myself, it's like 30 minutes.
That's
30
fine, go
seconds.
ahead and,
All right.
yeah, we only got one person.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson, council members. My name is Charles Williams, and I reside in Albany, Oregon, and have 4 children in the Greater Albany School District. Soon I'll be a licensed educator. As a bus driver, I transport students for GAPS. The matter I bring before you is an egregious one involving our local school district, GAPS, where our community constituents send their children. Before I begin, I am fully aware that the city council has no jurisdiction over the school board, the district proceedings, their actions, or lack of inactions. But for those who are not aware, public comment is not allowed during school board sessions. And while public comment is read and shared with the public, comments are masked and/or screened under the guise for the greater good. The outcome of this action has harmed many in our community, primarily the unheard voices of our Black and brown constituents. It is for this reason I stand before you. Over the past few years, GAPS has systematically removed many equity initiatives and programs. While this is a significant accusation, we must make the public aware of whether GAPS actions are intentional or out of gross negligence. The current equity director for GAPS whether intentionally or out of negligence, is no longer attempting to provide equitable services for our Black and brown families. Is this deliberate? I cannot speak to whether it is or is not. Was this a directive to initiate this minimization by GAPS board members? I can, however, speak to the affinity spaces that once existed for our families to discuss the racial issues our children face in school, yet non-existent. We are left helpless and out in the cold. As a father, it pains me to have to explain to my 7-year-old daughter why during pretend time that she couldn't be the character Princess Peach, and I quote, because Princess Peach is white and pure and you're black and dirty. I share this to give context to the division at hand. I am one of 10 future educators participating in the Teacher Development Program. Its focus is to bring more diversity and inclusion to our district where our Black and brown students are highly underrepresented. As of 2020, this program has paid our release time, tuition, and promised to pay our wages during student teaching. For many families, this is instrumental for those who lack the means to further their education. As of 2023, GAPS lost their funding to this state grant, and the reason for it was due to a 2-year suspension put on them by the state for either the lack of meeting paperwork deadlines or, once again, negligence. But that loss has caused several of us to feel hopeless and out in the cold once again. While GAPS has not made a statement on the matter, the reality is that for me, myself, we have lost our opportunity for release time to attend class, which means I will experience up to a reduction of $650 in my paycheck, which is significant when your monthly salary is only $1,500. Regarding the Teacher Development Program, the directive from GAPS states, due to the lack of funding, we may not be able to provide these services, and your contract only states if funding is available. Where is the security and faith in that? How does one focus on your grades and job, knowing that the rug can be pulled from you at any time? For those in this room, you can unveil the injustice practiced through GAPS. Use your voice, push back, and don't be silent when injustice occurs. Voice to your district. We will not allow our historically marginalized communities to be left out feeling helpless and in the cold. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charles. Do you want a copy of that? No, do you need it? So is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak, address the council? Please. Please state your name, not your address, just your, oh, I know who you are. But still state your name for the record.
My name is Scott Lippman. I live in Albany. And I have various customers, tenants that live in downtown Albany. And there's a consistent theme of concerns regarding safety. Homeless people camping out on porches, either going to where they reside or leaving. They don't feel safe. And when we think about, well, how can we resolve this? There isn't really an effective mechanism, I think, is what I understand. The Albany Downtown Association does a great job. However, they either lack of funding or whatever, they aren't particularly nudging folks. And then the Albany Police Department, although I really appreciate their work in the community, it isn't clear to me that they're nudging folks, which leaves it to us to nudge the folks. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to pass out something really quickly. I gave a talk at George Fox on real estate, and this is the effect of when you have an unsafe downtown.
Thank you.
So the example here is downtown Portland. Downtown Portland, about 1/3 of the buildings are underwater. That means there's more debt on the properties than they're worth. Why? The reason why is people don't feel safe in downtown. And how does that reflected in the market? Well, this first scenario, this first building, which is in a great location on Pioneer Square, sold for $45 million, just sold in the last few months for $13 million. The next page is Montgomery Park, which is a classic renovation of a warehouse into office. It sold for $255 million, and they just gave it back to the bank with debt of $150 million. They walked away from about $100 million. The next building sold in June of 2016 for $69 million. It just sold for $15 million. So there's a lot of effort that's put in to help downtown. You and I are participating in that. It'd be great if there was some initiative associated with help with the homeless. Thank you.
You have a little more? Okay. Thank you, Scott. Wow. Take your breath away. Thank you, Matt. Next on tonight's agenda is first readings of ordinances. Amend Albany Municipal Code, Chapter 5.08, peddlers, solicitors, with Matthew Ruckers, Director Ruckers, on page 3 through 6 of your packet.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. So tonight I have, it's really just a housekeeping item in our municipal code. That is where our regulations for medical and recreational marijuana uses are stored, not in our development code. One of the things that we've noticed as this original code was set out in 2016 and 2017 was there was an exception provided for medical marijuana manufacturing in industrial zones, and was specifically allowed in industrial zones even if they were within 300 feet of a residential property. The recreational marijuana uses didn't have that same exception, and we noticed that as a bit of a gap, especially when you're contemplating recreational marijuana manufacturing, as long as they don't have a retail use. So they're not selling from the location, they're just manufacturing. So they're similar types of manufacturing. We look at manufacturing as just simply that, manufacturing. Doesn't really matter the product they're making, it's a manufacturing use. So it's a housekeeping item to make those two medical and recreational similar when it comes to manufacturing uses in an industrial zone. So we've added that exception, or we're proposing to add that exception into the municipal code. And then there's two other housekeeping items. One is just cleaning up the ORSs they've renumbered the ORSs when it pertains to any sort of marijuana uses. So we've cleaned that up in AMC 508, as well as there was an old reference to basically an annual fee that the city would collect for marijuana uses. That's a fee that we've never collected, nor do we collect. We actually get a fee based on a percentage of the tax collected by the state. So that's essentially the gist of it. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Director, let me start with Councilor Kopczynski. Do you have anything, Councilor Kopczynski?
No, I'm strongly in favor of cleaning it up and making it relatable to all the processes that we see.
Thank you. Any councils and chambers have anything? Huh? He's in agreement with fixing it. He had an echo. Yeah, he said it has an echo. Yeah, but he agrees with cleaning it up. So since council has nothing other than Councilor Kopczynski's statement, will the city attorney please read the ordinance in title only?
An ordinance amending ordinances 5887 and 5892 and amending Albany Municipal Code AMC Chapter 5.08 to modify the locational requirements for recreational marijuana uses, update references to the Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS, and remove references to annual payments.
Would the counselor like to make a motion to read the ordinance second time in title only?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The vote's unanimous. Would the city attorney please read the ordinance for the second time in title only?
An ordinance amending ordinances 5887 and 5892 and amending Albany Municipal Code, AMC Chapter 5.08 to modify the locational requirements for recreational marijuana uses, update references to the Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS, and remove references to annual payments.
Is there any discussion on this topic? Thank you. Would the council like to make would the council like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance?
I would move to adopt the ordinance.
Is there a second? I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Thank you, council. Your ordinance is passed.
Thank you, council.
Next, adoption of resolutions. Stabilization Fund Policy, Director Yeager, pages 7 through 11 in your packet.
Good evening. As Director Bailey talked about on Monday, when we went over our strategic plan, we have certain tasks that we're wanting to do and objectives that we want to meet. One of those that is listed in that annual update, as well as in the Finance Department's operating plan, is to establish reserves that will help us maintain or increase our bond rating so that when we go out for debt for different projects, that we'll be able to get lower interest rates and will be much more attractive to those who want to invest in us. One of the things that is on there is we have been wanting to do is a stabilization fund. Stabilization fund is a little bit different than our normal contingencies because it's based on a decline in revenues rather than unforeseen expenses. During the pandemic, we saw certain departments that had reduced revenues. What this would do is it would give us an opportunity to keep critical operations in place while we determine how we're going to react to whatever unforeseen event happens. We currently have some funding that we could use, one-time monies, that were from the public safety buildings. As some of you may remember, at that time, there was discussion about how we should best use those after the buildings were built and everything was done. And the council really wanted to make sure that we used good stewardship for those funds. And staff thinks that this is a really great way of doing that. We're building reserves. We're putting ourselves into a position to better deal with something that could happen. And it also counts towards our reserves when we get bond ratings. So that's what we'd like to do, is we'd like to establish a stabilization fund. The policy is pretty straightforward. It's pretty short. We basically would fund it with one-time monies. We could potentially use some of the city services fund, but we don't have to. But there would be a cap of $2 million on that. And then if we were to use that, we would replenish it as soon as practically possible. If we're in the middle of an event where we have revenue declines, then it's going to probably take us a little while to build it back up again. That's what we have. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Council, any questions for the director?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Novak?
I do realize you mentioned only 0.5% of the city services fee to be potentially utilized in this way, but one of my questions is, if you do take any money from the city services fee, does that automatically necessitate raising that fee?
It doesn't.
Good, because I would really be loath to have that be the case.
And we're not necessarily, we're just saying that that could be a possible funding
Right.
source. We're not saying that we would necessarily do that, and it would have to be approved by council if we did.
Thank you, yes. And I don't know, with one-time monies, we always get that, well, it's a one-time money, you can't count on it in the future. I'm just thinking about something we've been discussing a lot of late, which is the situation with our roads. and especially local roads. And I'm wondering if I understand about the importance of bond ratings too, I get it. I kind of have an issue with the fact that cities operate on debt, but if you're going to do that, which is what they do, I can see why you would want us to do this thing. It does make sense in that sense, but there's a part of me that would really love to see one-time monies and whatever maybe, or part of it even, go toward the streets and the conditions and improving, or even taking some of that money. Maybe we could put some of the money toward a rainy day and some of the money toward some of these really critical needs that we have. I'm just putting this out there because it's dire straits and we know it. And this is money, and I know the money could shore up your reserves. I'm just, yes, as a city, I'm just throwing this out there because I know that it's situation desperate on our streets, especially the local streets. And I'm just wondering if there's any way we could consider
Grace going first.
anything. Yeah.
Thank you. Counselor Kopsinski, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I will say that we have been harping on building reserves for years, any way, shape, or form, because we've been almost at the bare minimum required by the state. And I think that it's necessary that we build them and don't get faint of heart. We need to get them back up so that we can feel relatively comfortable in the situation that we are in, that we in fact do have reserves that will help us in the downturns, which are inevitable down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Montague.
I agree with Counselor Kopsinski. I think this is a great first step. My question is $2 million even enough though? Like, that doesn't go very far.
It's a starting
If
point.
we have something happen, that's gonna be gone real quick. So yeah, is this you're anticipating that eventually we might have to increase this rainy day fund? Okay, great,
So-
because that's what I was thinking.
Well, Counselor Newton was next.
My question was merely related to semantics. Looking at the last section, council approval, it says all requests for use of stabilization fund monies will be presented to council along with the city manager's recommendation. So I'm wondering if would council be able to bring these up, or does everything have to come from staff with the city manager's recommendation? Maybe I'm reading it weirdly, but I just wanted to get a little clarification on that.
Well, generally, a department would come forward if they're seeing a decline in their revenues for a period of time. And so it would need to be reviewed. We'd want to review it first, myself and Peter, to see if it really does meet the criteria before we brought it to council, for council to vote on it.
Awesome, thanks.
Counselor McGee, do you have anything? Counselor Smith?
I see this as a really good idea, and I agree with what Counselor Kopsinski said. To me, it reminds me of my high school geography teacher who told us, he talked about everything. When we have a job and we earn money and we have bills to pay, we should pay ourselves first. Put money in savings, then take care of the rest. And this is a little tiny bit. It's like 5 cents on a dollar or less. I'm not good with percentages. So we need to do it. We need to preserve our bond ratings. We need to be prepared, even in a small way, for unforeseen downturns. They happen. We've lived through many of them, and I think it's just prudent, good financial management.
And I do agree with the counselors on that. I'm running a business, living in my home, being told to do it with my wife, save money, save money, save money. It is really important that we strengthen our bond rating, our credit report, and so we can go out for bigger money later on, because we have that stopgap or that shore to say, hey, we have the money. Let's go ahead and borrow against that. And I think it's great that we're doing this, and fantastic, so thank you.
Have a resolution, if council would.
Council, there's a resolution for consideration.
I'd move to adopt the resolution on page 11.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you, Director. Your
Thank
motion
you.
passes. Your resolution passes. Award of contracts, number 7 on the agenda. Item A is purchase of 35-foot hybrid electric tour transit bus. Barry Hoffman will be speaking to us, pages 12 through 14.
Hello, Council, Mayor, Peter. It's nice to see you today. Barry Hoffman, I'm the transit manager for the city of Albany. Most of the information that you need is in the memo that is presented, but I am happy to answer some questions. I'm sure there must be some burning questions. We have money to purchase a 35-foot transit bus that will be our first hybrid bus. Pretty excited about that. Moving into the 21st century and trying to save some fuel and some emissions, and hopefully, continue this in the future.
I have a
Counselor,
question.
Any counselor have any questions? You went first last time. Anybody have anything?
No, I was just gonna say that I think this is a great idea. I'm really excited about it.
Counselor Novak?
Thank you. I know that sometimes electric vehicles don't do as well in cold, wet weather. What sort of impact does a hybrid vehicle, how do they handle? I'm sure you've taken these things into consideration, but I'd like to hear something about that.
Sure, yeah. Electric vehicles made news this past winter in various cities across the country when the temperatures dipped well below zero. In this case, this is a hybrid vehicle, so it has a diesel propulsion system as well as an electric propulsion system. Operates similarly to a Prius type vehicle. This is not new technology. We're actually kind of on the back end. A lot of cities have already moved to hybrid buses. Portland runs hybrid buses, diesel electric hybrid buses, as does Eugene. Corvallis has made the step to go full electric with a couple of their newer vehicles. We're not quite ready for that yet. We're watching to see how that goes in Corvallis before we make that big leap sometime down the road. But I'm confident that this bus will be able to operate in our weather conditions, during the winter, colder months, as well as in the hotter months.
We'll go Counselor Newton first, then Counselor Montague.
Hey, Barry, thanks for bringing this forward to us. I had a question in regards to it. So the bus we're replacing met its life expectancy, 12 years or 500,000 miles. I understand you just said that we are waiting to make the leap to add more. I'm wondering what buses are going to be hitting that 500,000 or 12-year mark in the coming years? Do you know off the top of your head? Or like what the plan would be? Are we going to be getting more?
I can give you a ballpark.
Okay.
We have one sister bus to this bus that we're replacing that was also a 2010 bus that we got with ARA funds in 2010. In this case, we applied to replace both of them, but the state granted us to replace one, and it happened to be the Loop bus that they chose to replace. We have an Albany Transit bus that is the same age. So, we are going to be actively seeking another grant to replace the Albany Transit bus as it is aged at the same amount. In this case, the ATS bus seems to have held up a little better than the Loop bus has, just physically. And so the Loop bus made sense to replace first. And it also was easy for the state because it's a collaboration. The matching funds coming from Lynn County and Benton County. It's a collaboration which really the state appreciates that kind of collaboration. And when they see that, they're more apt to give us a grant.
Were we going to be seeking a grant for another electric bus, or were we unsure of the direction?
No, good question. So in order to go electric, full electric buses require quite a bit of investment in infrastructure. So we are literally about ready to move into our new bus bus facility, transit operations facility that you all approved for us to purchase just recently. Now that we have that facility, we can begin the planning process of what it would look like to have electrical infrastructure at that facility. And then a lot of communities wind up having to build charging facilities that are remote from their base of operations so they can do, I don't know how to describe it, but like in the midday charge where the bus would pull over for 20 minutes and boost its batteries up. So Corvallis, I believe, is building that somewhere in downtown. So it's a big leap from hybrid electric. Hybrid electric really is still putting some diesel in the bus and maintaining batteries and maintaining the equipment the way that it's meant to be maintained. But to leap to full electric is going to take quite a bit of investment and a lot of investment in our new home.
And also, wouldn't you have to put the infrastructure in before you brought those on board?
We would have to, it would either have to be all at once, which would be a really big grant, or build the infrastructure first and then buy the buses. So it's cart before the horse, horse before the cart in that situation. We certainly wouldn't want to buy electric buses when we can't charge them. That would make no sense at all, so.
Thank you. Councilor Montague had a question or a comment.
Yeah, so, so is this bus going to be a little bit quieter than the regular buses?
Yeah, I was reading on a little bit on how it operates, and it does, my layman's understanding is that as it comes to a stop, it'll do the engine pause like a lot of modern vehicles do, and then as it leaves, it'll leave under electric propulsion, and then as it gains speed, the diesel motor will add. I don't know if it adds to the electric propulsion or provides as a diesel engine propulsion at the same time. It's really quite complicated and new to me, so I've got a lot to learn, and so do our staff. But I do believe it'll be quieter at times. In certain areas, will definitely be quieter.
And are we going to be able to use the old bus for parts on the sister bus?
We are able, the FTA, which controls the interest in that bus, does allow us to hold on to that bus as they call it a reserve fleet, AKA spare, up until a point that it doesn't make sense to hang on to it anymore because they don't want to see buses rusting in a yard somewhere, and of course neither do we. Normally, after a short period of time, we dispose of our buses via auction. And then whatever proceeds we receive from the auction go back into our purchase fund for future buses.
So could it be used for like city tours? I know Rebecca Bond has people visiting us, and would that be a really good resource for something like that?
Another complicated answer. The complicated answer is no. The real answer is no.
That's not complicated. Say no.
Right, because
okay
it was
with that.
purchased with federal transit money, the FTA money, it makes it so that anything we do with it has to be open to the public.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
And so we can't use, now, on the other hand, Parks and Rec does have trip and tour buses and their trolley, which I'm sure, well, you guys are well familiar with the trolley. So
When it starts.
those buses are not run by transit. They're run by Parks and Rec for that very reason, because as soon as we take them under our wing and or use federal funds, we have to do something that's open to the general public.
see.
We can't do private trips.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Counselor Smith, I didn't get to you.
I didn't have any comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a resolution on page 14. Counselor Cop-Sensor, did you have anything on this?
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you. There's a resolution, council, on page 14.
I'd move to adopt the resolution on page 14.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you, councilors. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Thank you. Motion, the resolution is passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I can't wait to see it.
About a year,
About a year?
about a year. Spring of 2025.
Okay, whether I'll, yeah. Next on the agenda is adoption of the consent calendar. Council?
I move to adopt the consent calendar as written.
Second.
So before we vote, I have a comment. So the young lady that's resigned from the Parks Commission, she aspired to be a park ranger. She accepted. A couple days later, she got a job as a park ranger for National Service. So, yeah.
cool.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you. Consent calendar is passed. Next on tonight's agenda is staff reports. Approval of commercial property lease and agreement with Coastal Farms. Chief Marshall Harnden.
These
page
chairs are
31.
not built for gun belts. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. In front of you should have a memo that is where we're asking for your permission to enter a 2-year lease with the parent company of Coastal Farm. I believe it's called Wheeler Reserve is the official title. So we can open a substation location on the east side of Albany. The reason for this is that it's no surprise to anybody, this is a fast-growing city. And every month we look at where our activity occurs in the city. Besides the police station's main address, our #1 address for police services is Walmart. 57 calls in December alone. Right now, with how we are structured with paperless reporting, officers go out, take a report. They rely heavily on their body-worn cameras and other electronics, and they have to return to 2600 a lot of times to do the bigger investigations. And there, more times than I can count, I've seen an officer sit down at their desk, unpack their lunch to eat while they're writing their reports, get everything loaded up, and then get sent across town. And our response times to that part of town are climbing, and anybody who's driven across Albany in the afternoon can see that that can be a challenge. And particularly in an emergency, we want a stronger presence in that part of town. So this is a really common sense move, considering most of our growth is east. We contacted Mr. Buzz Wheeler about the location because their corporate offices for Coastal Farm are no longer at that location. They sold to Cal Ranch, so there's very little staff presence in that location. There's a lot of office space available. We're looking for a secure location of about 200 to 250 square feet where officers could go in and basically do their work, take a break, use the restroom, eat lunch, et cetera, and keep those assets on the east side of the city. And so took a look at the space. It meets all of our requirements for security. Anytime we're doing anything with criminal justice data, it has to have a level of security for both IT and just physical infrastructure. This location meets that. Sean Park and his crew in IT are currently finalizing agreements with a high-speed internet provider that will give us secure access back to the city and all the resources. So in total, in here, it's about $1,200 a year for the actual lease, but upfront costs are around $5,000 to $6,000, which we have the budget to do so. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for the chief? Councilor Kopczynski, I can't see your hand or not.
All good.
I want to say thank you, quite frankly. My office is right there at Sandy Am and I-5, and so I see the officers going, flying through town. So I'm really glad there's going to be something out there. I can't wait to do fire out there as well. Councilor?
On behalf of Ward 3, thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to find that's a really good way to use vacant space.
Absolutely.
And it's a heck of a deal, so that's super.
Councilor Newton?
Random question. How many calls, do you have a percentage of our calls that are related to Walmart?
I don't have the percentage, but on a monthly basis, very rarely in the 4.5 years I've been here, has Walmart not been the number 2 address. Followed, number one's always going to be the police station because we address a lot off of that generically. But 57 calls in the month of December alone, that's a lot of activity for us.
Wow, okay.
Can I add?
Yes, please.
Is that because Walmart is more aggressive than some businesses in enforcing malfeasance?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. Any large retailer along the I-5 corridor is often hit by organized retail theft. Walmart is not immune to that, nor is Coastal Farm, nor is Home Depot, nor is Kohl's. So we're out there a lot. And so having 2 of our east cars, northeast and southeast cars, have that central location will allow us to get there faster.
Wow.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please, Counselor.
Thank you. I have read, and I don't remember where this was, but something about up to $1,000 of merchandise can be stolen without any repercussion. So someone can just, is that the case here as well?
So amongst the big retailers in town, there's a disparity on how they treat shoplifts. Walmart is more aggressive in that regard, but there are some other stores, I don't want to name them because I don't suddenly want to barrage, but we do have stores here that won't even call us at all. One of our staff, non-sworn staff, was in one of those stores, saw a guy walk out with a cartload of stuff, got an employee, and they said, we don't do anything with that. And she's like, so my stuff is free? And so, yeah, there's some disparity in how the various stores handle it.
Thank you. So kind of the follow-up to that is, how is that not lawlessness?
I don't even really answer that question. It is, consumers pay the price for that. It's an acceptable loss for some of these groups, but I think just having a presence alone, a marked car presence alone there on Goldfish Farm Road will help us a lot, plus being there a lot faster. We did have an incident at Coastal Farm that was a theft. They called us. That vehicle is located at Home Depot, and when the officer tried to stop it, that person rammed a bunch of vehicles and shopping carts in the location, and then fled towards Lebanon. Based on the type of crime at the time, we did not chase that person, the risk versus the outcome. Well, the vehicle that they were driving became disabled on Highway 20 at Spicer, and then that person carjacked another individual. We did pursue that individual. They've been doing crimes up and down the region for some time. So it is an area that could use that extra attention.
Well, I'm glad your presence will be there.
Don't mind. I think we all are, especially Ward 3. Oh, so yes, this is true. There's nothing to vote on, is there? Right?
I move
Resolution, I
to
think.
authorize the chief of police to sign a commercial property lease for 24 months with Coastal Farm Home Supply for a single conference room to serve as a substation located at 1355 Goldfish Farm Road, Southeast Albany, Oregon 97322.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Thank you, Chief. The resolution passes. Next on tonight's agenda is business from the council. Who would like to go first this evening? I'll just pick somebody. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. I have a list, but it's short. I would like, at the request of a constituent and myself, could we get an update on the status of the Airport Museum project? I'd like to know what's going on with that. At the, I think it was the last formal council meeting, we talked about money that had come to local agencies through the state for the Behavioral Health Resource Network, the Measure 110 money for treatment and housing and so on. That came up at the joint meeting with Lynn County Commissioners when the public health director said that Lynn County government didn't receive any of that money. Thanks to our partners at Community Services Consortium, I got the information as I promised I would. There were 7 nonprofits, social service, and healthcare providers in Lynn County that received a total of $7,250,540.33 from that fund for a variety of housing and healthcare and, services. So we have not been left out in the cold. The other thing that I wanted to say was just to give a formal thank you to the staff for all the work that went into the strategic plan update and review, and particularly the individual department operational plans, which is new since I was on the other side of the dais, and for some departments. It's all good. It's all good. It's teamwork, and it's looking to the future and taking care of the present. And thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Newton?
Okay, I have 2 things. First is Ziply, and it was a question from a constituent about the installation of the fiber optic, of the fiber cable. They were just wondering if there was, so the issue is specifically, they had back and forth with the installers about how things would be installed. It was going to have the fiber cable go through their neighbor's front yard to the west, and through both of the neighbor's driveway and their driveway, and then through their front yard. And then all of our above-ground utilities that they currently have come in through the back of the house. So it would be a different layout. And they were, so this would be the only cable on their block that would come through the front of their home. And so they were just curious about the effect of new wires that might have on the neighborhood, and then also just how Ziply is the thought that Ziply is giving to adding new wires to our infrastructure and connecting to our infrastructure. So that was a concern, and I would like to follow up on that. And the second thing I had a constituent reach out in regards to their water bill, and in speaking with Director Bailey, I learned that, well, we're trying to figure out specifically what's going on with the account of my constituent, but there's an issue with, so we're in the conversion to the new billing software. There have been some issues where automatic notices of being late have been generated when accounts aren't actually past due. I was curious if we knew how many residents were getting past due notices, and if we could let them know, hey, calm down, it's okay, you aren't actually past due, because I'm sure folks get really concerned when they're getting that notice.
So, yes, I got one, and then, so I came in and talked about it. But it's something that Peter's been addressing, so.
Is there a way for us to reach out to constituents and just say, hey? Is there a way for
We
us to-
are sending emails out to
Okay.
constituents.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Counselor McGee?
I think I have 3 or 4 things. First thing is a constituent contacted me regarding Knox Butte Road is just not well lit. I think I've said this a couple of times. I live over there. It is not well lit, as well as Goldfish Farm Road, which I think is county property or some sort. But if we can get, I don't know, some sort of light over there. There are people walking down the street, sometimes coming from the little, is that a bite martyr?
Can't even see him.
You cannot see these people. And it's, especially if it's raining, it's darker. And a couple of constituents have contacted me regarding it being very just not well lit. If we can get some sort of lighting over there. It doesn't have to be the fluorescent lights, but something so that people can see. It's a huge safety concern over there.
What was the street again?
Goldfish Farm and Knox Butte.
Knox Butte, that was one I didn't hear.
Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Second thing, someone contacted me about a pothole on 30th and Elmine.
Irvine. Oh, she talked to me too.
Okay. So we gotta get on that. I don't want nobody mess up their undercarriage on their car. Other thing is got an opportunity to attend the HRC meeting yesterday. And one of the things they are thinking of is changing their name. And so I told them, so they're considering changing their name. I did tell them that we did have a joint meeting with the Transportation Committee, and maybe at some point we can invite them to. I think we should at some point have a joint meeting with all of our commissions, just to see what they're up to, what they're doing, their progress. So I told them about that, so they will be contacting Peter, I think, or your secretary to look at some time in the future to have a joint meeting with us. Last thing is, on Sunday, we just saw Jason Dorsett receive an award. He is the NAACP president for our Lynn and Benton County branch. And on Sunday, I was able to speak on a panel for Black women in law and politics, along with Faith Stetswaters, who was a former judge here in Lynn County, and some other young women across the state. It was a really good experience. And I think I represented well, as Councilor Montague said, and she came and supported, and I appreciate that. And I'm just really excited about the work that the NAACP does in our community. They do a lot. And I'm grateful for them and grateful for the work that they continuously do in their leadership. And so that's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Montague. Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, so I also received an email from a constituent about the water billing system. So I guess are we forwarding those to you, Peter, or? do you want
Yes,
me to?
please.
Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
Counselor Kopczynski, then I'll go to Counselor Novak.
Nothing this evening.
Counselor Novak?
Thank you. It's kind of fun to be last. With regard to notifying people about the water bills and everything else, I don't know who on staff takes care of reaching out to people on the Nextdoor site. I think it's Nextdoor that I keep catching messages from the city, and I want to say I think that's really effective. Whoever's doing that, I do see notices from the city on the Nextdoor site, and I think that that might be a really great place to reach out with regard to the water bill situation and anything else, because again, I am seeing those messages, and if I'm seeing them, there's other people seeing them. That's very good. I like that. That's, helps communication and transparency and all that. The other thing is, I apologize for being late once again tonight. I don't know, I was on North Albany Road, and there were easily 20 cars ahead of me, and then I thought there was a train. There didn't seem to be a train, and I don't know if the crossing arms were stuck. There were a lot of people turning around. I just wonder if anybody could look into that and see if we had crossing arms that had a problem tonight, because I couldn't see a train anywhere, and I did see at least one car that looked like, and forgive me, this is not a good, I didn't take a license plate because I was way too far back, but they were going in the gap between the crossing arms. I know, but that's what made me think there was no train there, because I was too far back to see a train, but I did see a car do that, and so I don't know if we had an issue tonight with the crossing arms, but that did impact my ability to be here in a timely manner. So, thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Does everybody go? Do you go? Marilyn?
I was first.
I have a couple things. I had the pleasure, honor of testifying for the legislature on 2 occasions this month. One with regard to 4002, and there's a bipartisan bill to strengthen Measure 110. I don't know where if it's passed or will pass, but I did speak on behalf of, I talked about my fear. One of the biggest fears I have with this fentanyl crisis is getting a phone call from a chief of police or city manager saying I have a classroom full of dead kids. We have to get that stuff off our streets. The owner of Mother's Restaurant in Portland shared how a person set up outside her door in the front of her building and was handing out little packets of fentanyl or pills. It's a crisis for the entire community, the entire state, the entire country. And so I spoke on behalf of strengthening that bill. I had the honor of attending a Kids for the Culture event at the library. They're doing a lot of great events at the library, and their kids were dancing and singing and celebrating. And so I felt inspired when they did the drawing for prizes, I took $60 out of my wallet and gave a bunch of kids $10, $20 bills. So it was really cool. And then library, I think I told some of you guys about this. I think I asked Peter to send it out, the 3x3 art pieces. I went there and some of those pieces were absolute amazing. And the children put such hard work into those pieces, and I selected the 3 that I thought that I liked the most of over 200 and something that were there. So I stood there reading the artwork and actually looking at the pieces of art. I would love to see something like that displayed in City Hall. It was beautiful. And the work and the families that worked on those projects, it was amazing. So please get a chance, if they're still up, please go take a look at them. And then I think that's it, Peter. And so next on tonight's agenda will be the city manager's report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, well, before that, I'd like to thank Councilor Smith for running the meeting on Monday when I was up in Salem testifying. I watched part of the meeting before I went in. You did a great job.
On me.
Yes, you did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks
And
for
she had
giving
one
me
more
the
thing.
opportunity. This leads into the city manager's report. Regarding Mr. Williams, who spoke to the council earlier, we have a joint meeting with the school district on our perpetual to-be-planned list, and I just wanted to know if there's any headway there.
Yeah, now that we've finished with Lynn County, we're turning our attention to that one.
So
shouldn't
thank you,
say-
city manager.
I shouldn't say we finished with Lynn County, now that we had our meeting with Lynn County.
First meeting.
First,
Yes.
initial meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to remind you and everybody that Library Uncorked is this weekend. And I would encourage you to attend and help the library with their major fundraiser. And as Eric Eichenoy says, place an irrational bid on some auction item. But come on out and enjoy the evening. As part of the consent agenda tonight, you approved a summer break for the council from August 7th to September 23rd. And that will be a good opportunity for council and staff as well. Councilor Smith, the Airport Museum, we'll get a briefing on the calendar for that. And I wanted to point out that with respect to utility billing, we do know that it's been a very tough transition. And Matt Harrington has pointed out that we're sending out emails every other week on Friday. The next one's coming out this Friday with the status of the transition, outstanding issues, and other messaging. But we are taking a very compassionate look to dealing with the problems that people bring to us in terms of past due notices and so forth. Just a reminder, we have an executive session this evening, but before our executive session, Mr. Mayor, thank you for testifying in Salem on some very much needed legislation. The League of Oregon Cities has worked with the bipartisan Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety Response to come up with HB 4002. And tonight, Sean and Chief Harnden are here to ask for council's concurrence to the addition of the APD logo and the city logo to a letter of support. And so let me turn it over to Sean and then call Marcia up to the desk.
Thank you. Yeah, we just, we wanted to get the council's blessing, so to speak, tonight to put a letter of support that's for House Bill 4002, which is somewhat of, and Marcia will speak in depth if you need to on it, but a kind of a compromise. It's as you know, Measure 110 that passed a few years ago has been kind of a, to most people's eyes anyway, disaster with the way of the drug use and increase in homelessness. There's been a strong push to repeal that Measure 110 altogether, which is also not very popular. And so House Bill 4002 was a compromise to that, and it's been supported by the League of Oregon Cities. It's been supported by the Mayor's Association, the Sheriff's Association, I believe the Police Chiefs Association, and they were just asking for. Actually, what they wanted was to use on the letter of support our logo, and I wanted to bring that to council before we gave them the green light to do that. Just make sure you were okay with that. So.
And I'll just add, a lot of work has gone into this from groups, both the Chiefs Association, on which I'm on the executive board as the vice president, the Sheriff's Association, also the District Attorneys Association. So there's a lot of folks that really didn't want to see a full repeal, which was a very real possibility that would end up on a ballot. And what we are doing currently does not work. Our overdose rate in this city for deaths is 800% above what it was in 2019. Even if drugs were still criminalized, we would still have overdoses. But I don't think we would have them at the level that we do in this state. It's 1,500% in the state of Oregon. Something has to change. And a lot of work's gone into this. And I've been a skeptic that we would actually get this far. But I think if you look at the details of 4002, one of the things that you'll see is that there will be programs and paths to recovery in diversion and drug court that were not there even before Measure 110 was passed. So the whole structure will be better than it was before. We are not out of the woods. I mean, our court systems, our jails are a mess, not because of the bad people running those, but the system is in trouble. So we've got some work to do, but this is a really common sense compromise. I'm proud of the work that my organization as the Chiefs Association did, and I personally fully support it.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Sean. Council, any questions, any comments? Councilor Montague?
So I hear a lot of law enforcement and the mayors and the League of Oregon Cities are supporting this. What about our community partners? What are they saying about this? Because that's who's going to be, impacted as well.
Well, I asked Emma Dean to stay, but she had another obligation, but she's in support of the change as well. And it's just a tsunami of issues that they're dealing with. We work closely with a tri-county area of harm reduction prevention folks. I sit on that committee. One of their members was here as well. And we're just at a loss at what we can do. And the overwhelming stance of those folks is Measure 110 as it stands right now is a failure and we have to change something. So they do like the fact that there is more accountability, but also strict lanes for people to get into treatment and diversion. I don't know if most people know that Lynn County actually has a fairly healthy drug court program here, and that's what we would utilize here, and we just have to look at what that looks like. It's also important to note, I have about 20 or so police officers who have never arrested somebody for a drug crime because they started work after the law passed. So we have some changes that have to occur.
So I attended drug court twice, Judge McQuadish, and then with Judge McHill last week. And so I think all of us should take a moment and go attend the drug court to see what they do. Councilor Novak.
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, in light of the overwhelming failure, and I'm quoting you, of Measure 110, I'm just a little bit at a loss to understand how it is that there would be any opposition to repealing it.
It's complex. You have individuals that were not happy with and we don't want to go back to where we were before. Don't get me wrong. Outright repeal is not a good option for our community. There are some disparate numbers in the particularly people of color that we don't want to go back to those numbers. And we really want to push people towards diversion. For years and years, there's been a program in place around DUI laws, pushing people to diversion, so we break down recidivism. We didn't have that really prior to Measure 110. This has that now, so we can push individuals towards that treatment option instead of jail. And so that will, I think, help with those disparities a little bit and have services. Again, we have ways to go. There's some programs that really need to be stood up before we'll see a lot of success here. But yeah, I can understand where people are coming from. They're a little skeptical, but this is not intended to go back to where we were before.
Well, I hope it works. I hope it helps with all my heart. I do.
There was a person that spoke that I listened to testify for that hour and a half I was waiting to speak, a minute and 13 seconds. She was a mental health does deal with addiction down in Grants Pass or Medford, one of them. And she said that as a doctor, she felt that taking away the accountability piece added entitlement, right? I can do what I want because you're going to give it to me anyway. And so she supported Measure 4002, and I think, well, the House bill. So there's a lot of organizations all over the state saying, we support this for these reasons, and it was bringing back accountability and also eliminating the entitlement piece that people, that it naturally trended to, because they're going to give it to me anyway, so why worry about it? So I think that message was really clear in that hearing. Yes, Counselor Montague first. You good? Okay, Counselor Smith.
I've been following the bill pretty closely, but I don't recall hearing anything directly about what the compromise says about any changes in police training.
Well, again, we have a fairly large number of officers who don't know what to look for when it comes to, we call PCS. It's possessing of a controlled substance. So there's one reason, if this passes, the law enforcement aspect of it will not become law until September, which will give courts and police departments, we have to work out with, AMC, our court here in Lynn County and Benton County, what that looks like, because we haven't done that work for now 3 years. So there's a lot of training in it. I don't know if we're all going to be responsible for it on our own, I think. So as far as, I'm hoping that answered your question, but we have a ways to go. And fortunately, it won't become law tomorrow because we do have a ways to go to get people trained up.
There were suggestions, I think, a year or so ago about making changes at the academy level, and that's what I was adding training that starts there.
Yeah. We again, most police departments are still struggling to get their numbers back up, and it's going to have an impact on our jails as well. And it's a concern to both sheriffs, and I totally understand that because they have staffing levels. So yeah, there's some training around. That has to occur, but I also have 66 people that I've got to get ready as soon as the law changes,
Right.
which I suspect it will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Counselor McGee, do you have anything? Counselor Kopczynski, do you have anything? Counselor Kopczynski?
Nothing to say.
Counselor Newton? Thank you.
I would support using the logos as requested on the letter of support.
So all those in favor of using the logos?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Did that require a logo, first measure, a motion
It
in a
didn't.
second? It did not require a motion in a
No,
second? Okay.
we could do a thumbs up on it.
Okay,
And I
thank
think Marcia Mann said this, but if she didn't, and if she did, I apologize, I'm repeating it. But I said it was a compromise, and it really is, because there's a big push with groups in the state to put an initiative on the ballot to repeal Measure 110. If this House bill passes, then they are not going to go try to repeal 110 as it is now, because then you're going to have all or nothing again. So this is a compromise that the groups have got together and talked about. So
Good. Thank you for the explanation. So Peter, I'm gonna go ahead and go to executive session, okay? We'll now recess to executive session to discuss the labor negotiations in accordance with ORS 192.660, subparagraph 2, subparagraph D. The representatives of the news media and designated staff and other persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other participants must exit. Online audience members will be moved to the waiting room. When the council returns to the open session, the staff will readmit them in the remaining of the waiting room and rejoin the meeting. In-person audience members must leave the council chambers and wait in the hallway. When the council returns to open session, staff will open the doors and you can rejoin the meeting. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session and previously announced. No decisions will be made in executive session. I'll now recess the executive session at 7:40. p.m. We back? Open the door. We're about to go. Thank you very much. And so at this time, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. We have next meeting dates are March the 11th. I will not be in that particular meeting. So Counselor Smith will serve as the mayor for that meeting. So thank you very much for accepting that responsibility. And Wednesday, March 13th at 6 p.m., we'll have our next city council meeting. With that, I will adjourn.